With D2C, there's always a real challenge in making sure that marketing has to be the sales engine. You can't have a lovely brand campaign where you've done a load of out of home or TV ads and you're like, yeah, like 5 million people saw it. And so therefore thumbs up. In D2C, it has to be, and therefore there were this many add to baskets, this many people actually checked out.
Super excited for today's episode with Lauren. We covered a broad range of topics from everything marketing to obviously a little bit of AI. Super excited for today's podcast. Welcome to another episode of the e-commerce toolbox expert's perspective. Joining us today, we have Lauren. She's joining us all the way from the UK and she's the marketing director at Folio Society. Welcome, Lauren.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Awesome. I always like to start off by learning a bit about your career journey. So why don't you take us down your career journey path and how you ended up in your current role?
So I'm a bit of an accidental marketeer. So I, after university, was a bit unsure about what I wanted to do. And I stumbled into a job as an e-commerce assistant for a small gifting brand in the UK called Biscuiteers. It was tiny. I think I was like employee number 4 into the office. And a big part of my job was like processing orders. But I stayed with the business for 12 years. So I kind of went through the transformation of being a kind of like nimble, feisty startup through to the kind of growing pains that you get when you get a little bit bigger, and the kind of feisty startup mentality needs to be underpinned by processes and systems that all talk to each other. And then when I left, it was a kind of multi-million-pound, multi-channel retailer. We were online, we did marketplaces, we had a retail stores, we did wholesale and B2B as well. So yeah, it was a big learning curve for me. I absolutely love the brand. I still think it's fantastic. And I joined the Folio Society back in 2024. The kind of, I guess the objective I was given was make the marketing work in kind of, I guess, 2024 and beyond world. The business was doing really well. It had had that amazing COVID bump. But I think the kind of halo that it'd seen in sales had taken a bit of a dip and it was starting to slide backwards. And marketing was identified as an area that definitely needed a little bit more support than it was potentially getting. So I've been here 3 years. I'm a marketeer, but my background's actually really e-commerce. And I love e-commerce because it is the kind of intersection of sales and marketing and operations. And it's where the fun is. I think working in D2C is just the best because you get to see everything you're doing. You'll get a read on it, whether it's good or whether it's bad. And so you're always learning. It's fantastic.
I love it. Like you mentioned, a lot of businesses kind of started to peak during COVID. And then on the back of that, they needed to kind of rebuild a lot of their demand function. Folio Society has been around for a long time, right?
Yes, it'll be 80 years next year. So it founded in 1947, which is crazy. And it was a book club initially. So what Folio Society is known for doing is taking the world's best love stories and turning them into kind of amazing, immersive reads. So we take the story and we turn it into a book that's kind of worth reading and rereading, from kind of the beautiful illustrations that we commission to go in them through to the materials that we use. Every book that we publish is something that we feel truly passionate about. Somebody in the business has to really vouch for it for us to publish it. And we're really proud of what we do. And there's a really amazing market out there. Our customers are incredible. We wouldn't have survived for 80 years if we didn't have a real sense of fandom around what we do. And there's some really niche things that we publish, but there's always a fan somewhere. And so my job is to find those fans and make sure that they see what we do. It's amazing.
Very cool. And obviously you joined the business on the back of COVID. So maybe talk to me a bit about how did that business change from a marketing standpoint, pre to post COVID? Like where did it shake out?
So I think the thing that was quite clear, around Folio during the COVID period is that the business had undergone quite a big transformation in the prior years. So I think Folio's been around for 80 years, but it had kind of lost its way a little bit in the early to mid 2000s. I think it was a bit unsure of what model it should be. So originally it was a subscription-based business and it had kind of a membership that was, falling. And the CEO, Joanna Reynolds, she's done an amazing job of effectively trying to navigate, how does Folio fit in this world? So gone was the membership model. And I think there was still a slight feeling within the business potentially that actually what it used to do was the right thing, and this new world order perhaps wasn't quite right. But I think COVID had shown that there was clearly an interest in what Folio produces. And so I think what they needed was a sense of confidence to be brought into the marketing. And the big change that I kind of looked at was the way that we need to look at it. The operating problem of Folio from a marketing perspective is actually it's finding and creating a market for the books that we sell, because there are no competitors that do what Folio does. So the big challenge for me is not necessarily going, what are our competitors doing? How can we be ahead of them? How can we keep them at bay? It's going, we literally have to explain what we do because it's not really obvious to everyone. But we know that there are people out there that will love what we do. So that's the big challenge. And I think refocusing the marketing in that lens, I think was probably what was needed post-COVID, because what they were doing pre-COVID wasn't working for them. The business was sliding backwards. So it had to shift in order to move forwards.
Very interesting. And then kind of that starts to beg one of the age-old questions is how do you kind of balance brand versus direct attribution and all of that stuff? So how are you thinking a bit about like brand and building that kind of long-term engine as well? Because like you mentioned, it sounds like there's a heavy education component to what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I think building brand is something that is not easy. Like, I think it's personally, my background is e-commerce. I'm a performance marketer at heart. So when I first came into Folio, the most obvious kind of route in was for me to go, okay, well, look, give me a little bit of money. We'll test it out here. We'll see what works. And then we'll build on that. And brand is something that is instinctual. And it's something that takes a long time. And the big challenge for Folio is that some people, particularly in the UK, kind of knew what we did. And there was this kind of view that the brand was perhaps, oh yeah, my granddad or my grandma had a Folio book. It would inevitably be leather, something quite obscure or a classic. And in the UK, we really wanted to change people's minds about who Folio was, because we publish across the board from modern fiction, science fiction, fantasy to the classics. We haven't forgotten about those. So there was kind of two jobs at hand for me. One was building the brand in the US, which is our big target market. And in some ways that's easier because you are starting from almost from scratch. And the second one was changing the viewpoint of how people in the UK or the people that are aware of us see that. And I think it's a long game. That's what I've come to realize. It's not something that, like with paid media, you can do overnight. But for me, it's something that's like a real focus. But I've just had 6 months out on maternity leave and I've come back. And I think for me, brand is absolutely where our focus needs to be now. The business has undergone a huge amount of growth in the last 3 years, which is fantastic. So what we're looking at is what does that mean in terms of laying the foundations for how people see us in, say, 2, 3, 4, 5 years' time and beyond that. So it's all channels that, annoyingly, you talked about direct attribution. You can't really attribute things like PR, influencers, how content is created and absorbed, how LLMs and AI is absorbing some of this information. It's very much feels more like black magic than a science, I would say. But it is something that I think you can't sleep on. And especially when you have a heritage brand like this, it's really important that you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, we're not looking to start again. Everything at Folio is an evolution, not a revolution, because we don't want to alienate those customers that have been on a journey with us for a very long time. But at the same time, we know that there's a huge world out there that could really, really tap into what we're doing. And those are the people we want to find.
If you're listening to the e-commerce toolbox, you're entitled to a podcast exclusive website audit. Go to noibu.com/podcast-audit for a free scan that uncovers the hidden friction blocking your conversions and shows you where you're leaking revenue.
There's so many kind of threads to pull on there, but you had mentioned one of them. So obviously AI, I think I was reading AI is not that popular right now. Like, it's very popular in terms of usage, but in terms of like public opinion on AI, right? Is it going to take all the jobs? Is it going to do this? Obviously, you folks are in a category that's been kind of heavily debated where it's like, hey, can you train AI models on books? Can you not? If you bought the book once, can you train a model on it? So I think there's just a lot of questions there. Maybe dividing it into like two categories. One, like when it comes to like how you guys think about AI and then like the content writers and how kind of they should use it or not use it. And then the second front for actual marketing and creation of like assets and ad campaigns and more kind of operational things. Have you guys started looking at any of that at all?
Yeah, we've had some pretty lengthy debates about this because I think the thing that can be frustrating, if I start with question 2 first, the thing that can be frustrating is it feels like a lot of the platforms out there that we choose to work with that are working well for us, like Meta, like Google, where there's a scalability, there's an opportunity to scale. It's a worldwide audience. We can find deep fandoms within it with clever targeting. There seems to be a real race to adopt AI across almost everything. And I think some of the things that make me feel nervous is that I think at the moment there does feel like you've got this opportunity that you can opt out if you want to. So around content creation for assets, which Meta, we find that our creators fatigue after 5 to 10 days if they have strong enough spend behind them. The pressure it puts on my creative team to then like keep responding to new creatives over and over again, it's really high. And so there is an argument to say, well, should we be adopting AI to fill in some of the gaps that my creatives maybe are struggling to keep up with? And we have been back and forth on this a lot. And I think where we've landed is that actually anything creative really goes against the kind of ethical practices that we have in the production of our books. We would never use AI to lay out a page, for example, in our books. We would never use AI illustrations. Like we always commission illustrators to work with. And so I think if we were to start using AI to generate creative assets, I think it makes it a really tough position for us then to stand up and say that we really support all the artists and illustrators that we work with. It kind of just goes against that ethics, I suppose. However, that being said, I feel at the moment I can opt out of AI on the platform in that I can go fine. I'm just going to have to either deal with the fact that I can't keep up with the level of creative I need, or I'm going to have to put more pressure or find more budget to deliver them. I was at a conference recently and the announcement was that Meta was saying that the expectation is that it's going to be one-to-one personalization on ads. So you won't have a choice. They will take your creative and they will adapt it with AI so that it's more fitting for the end user because they may have viewed something or have an interest in this area. And that I think is a slightly more tricky and frustrating position to be in as a marketer because then you don't have the option to opt out around the creative side of things. I don't want to sound all doom and gloom because actually I think on a personal level, I think AI can be really fantastic. And for your point around like AI and how we use it, I think there's total value in automating a lot of things like reporting and some of the donkey work that a Monday trade meeting where you have to pull together all these stats. Actually, AI can be quite transformative there. And that's more where it's helping us, I think, is things like trying to work out demand planning and trying to work out the best route forward on, data analysis and that kind of stuff. So it's a tricky one. I think we're still working out from our perspective, like how does AI fit in? And we don't want to get left behind and you can see the value in some of what it does. But I think when it comes to how we present the brand, especially being a heritage brand, especially in the product that what we do, it's luxury, it's premium. Customers deserve premium creative that reflects the beauty of the books. And I think AI can do a good enough job, but I don't think it can do the best job. I still think there's a touch of humanity that's absolutely needed throughout that. And so for that reason, we're kind of, I guess, trying to steer clear of the creative side of things.
Yeah, everything you're saying is resonating. Like, I think what I'm seeing in the market is it's still kind of clear when people try and outsource their creative work to AI, whether it's blog posts, asset creation, story creation. It all kind of just looks congruent. If that makes it kind of looks the same. It's like different topics, but it kind of just looks the same. And it's very clearly AI generated. Now, on the other side, where we've seen a lot of value in AI is automating repetitive tasks. Example, Monday morning trading, reviewing customer complaints, things like that, grouping together themes from why people are abandoning their cart. Like things like that seem to be very useful because it's kind of like it's repetitive tasks that have been done before. And like 90% of the time, there's a right answer, if that makes sense. Whereas in creative, not exactly like that by any means at all. So no, I think that's really consistent with what we've been hearing. Kit, as we look to move on, I'm curious, how are you balancing D2C initiatives with like brand initiatives? Anyone who's kind of going through maybe a similar evolution on the brand side, How have you been able to balance metrics in the interim? Sometimes those things feel like they're maybe growing in different directions.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I think when I came into the business, there was quite a clear commercial need to ensure like the sales were there first and foremost. And from my perspective, when I came in, I had a kind of a rough idea of like a bit of a 3-year plan in my head of what I would do. And year one absolutely had to be like fixing the commercials, making sure that we've got the right tech stack in place in order to be able to do CRM correctly, making sure that we've got robust commercial reporting to make sure that we can understand how our channels are performing, how our customer base is shifting, where the effort and reward needs to be balanced for all of those things. And that's really paid off now. And I think in terms of with D2C, there's always a real challenge in making sure that marketing has to be the sales engine. You can't have a kind of lovely brand campaign where you've done a load of out of home or TV ads and you're like, yeah, like 5 million people saw it. And so therefore thumbs up. Like in D2C, it has to be, and therefore there were this many add to baskets, this many people actually checked out. Here's what they bought. Here's what they're likely, when they're likely to purchase next. And so everything I do has to be kind of commercially rigorous. And that's like something that I personally really believe in as well. I would never want to go and work in a marketing role that didn't have that commercial rigor attached to it. It just wouldn't interest me. It's no fun. I think it's only now where the commercials are working well and the business is in strong growth mode where I feel confident enough to be able to say, we're going to take, it is a bit of a punt on some more brand stuff. So we've started small initially, like we wanted to work in channels that we felt could show some element of return. So we isolated YouTube as an opportunity channel, and we've been doing some upper funnel brand awareness stuff there. So for us, we were isolating it in specific states, it's just US only. And that really helped give us the confidence. Initially, all we got was kind of, we did a brand lift test, which gives the initial kind of confidence of like, oh, this many extra people saw it and they recognize the brand. So there's an immediate metric there, which can kind of keep everyone calm. But then the way that we're checking afterwards is our initial test was in New York City specifically. We then looked at, well, what impact did that have in terms of customers shopping, new customers into their business from that area, what they spent, AOV, repeat rate, all that kind of stuff in the kind of 30, 60, 180 days after that campaign. And we're still measuring it now. And we're tracking that against what the general benchmark of the business is. And I think that's really helped give us some confidence that that kind of fluffy brand stuff that you can't say this definitely drove X amount of money does end up paying off later down the line, but you have to have patience. But that's not something that I feel I could have done at the beginning. And actually the business like are incredibly open. My CEO, Joanna, has a marketing background, which is amazing because she sees the value in it. But I think I needed to feel like I could come in and say with some confidence that things were working okay. So we can kind of move, you're at the bottom of the funnel, so you want to start moving up. So that has been a way that has really helped us to balance that upper funnel activity with actual real life results beyond impressions.
Very cool. No, it makes a lot of sense what you're saying. And it's always a push and a pull. And it's really, really interesting at times to balance. As we look to wrap up, I'm curious, kind of as a parting question, we chatted a little bit about AI already. Are you folks seeing any traffic from AI discoverability search engines at all? Has that been conversation and a focus? I think you guys are in potentially an interesting category, also being a legacy brand. Like, have you guys seen that at all?
Yeah, it's so interesting because actually it's timely because I'm doing a little bit of a project around this at the moment in the business. So at the moment, search volumes are still really small, probably like within our organic search traffic, it's probably about 10%, less than 10%. It sort of depends on month to month. But as with all of the AI stuff, like this stuff moves at the speed of light. So like what you see one month, like is not what you see the next month. However, I do think that the kind of traditional attribution of how you look at like the traffic when it comes to the website is probably very broken because I think that people are using, say, your ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever, as like a chatting agent, like an agentic chatbot. But then I don't think they're necessarily clicking through. And obviously the route to click through, the direct links are very different depending on which AI assistant you're using. So what I think we're seeing is an uplift in things like direct traffic or an uplift in our organic. So I think a lot of it isn't readable in a traditional attribution sense, in the way that most marketers would look at it. So it's something that we're looking into at the moment. I think for me, the bigger issue is how we're perceived by those agents, because I think, look, there's so much more focus, I think, on third party. So like customer reviews, PR, testimonials, Wikipedia, Reddit, that kind of stuff to try and assess what your brand is. It's an area where luckily our customers are very active. But I think when they're looking at things like PR, we've worked really hard to try and move away from Folio, what it was, say, 20 years ago, this kind of like old collectors club, into this kind of modern brand. And you can still see hints of like that old Folio in what ChatGPT, Claude are coming back with when you ask them who are Folio, what do they do? And so a big focus for me, and it speaks to the brand thing, is like, how do we change this? And it's not going to be a technical fix on our website. It's absolutely going to be like big brand PR pieces. It's going to be changing customer perceptions about what we do. So it's the long game once again, and it's not easily fixed, but it's something that is a major focus for me at the moment.
We've been trying to do the same thing on our side. It's really tough to change the perception of these. It just takes time and repetition, and you have to be very explicit. So, Lauren, this was a phenomenal episode. So really appreciate you taking the time. Thanks so much for hopping on.
Thank you so much. Thanks. See you later.
The e-commerce toolbox, AI in Retail, is brought to you by Noibu. To find out more about Noibu and how we unify error monitoring, site performance, and experience analytics to uncover growth opportunities and skyrocket your revenue, visit www.noibu.com. That's Noibu.com. And then make sure to search for the e-commerce toolbox, AI in Retail, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and click subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Noibu, thanks for listening.